Noah here with American Trucks. Today we're checking out the Cognito Motorsports 3-inch performance leveling kit with the Fox PS IFP shocks, fitting the 2014 and newer four-wheel drive Ram 2500. If you're looking for a very high-end, performance-oriented leveling kit with some really heavy-duty shocks and huge springs, this is a really solid option to check out. First things first, this is a leveling kit, and it's certainly not something like a strut spacer. No, this is a really beefy leveling kit with some high-performance Fox shocks, and this is actually a 3-inch leveling kit at that, and that's a decent jump in suspension height that's going to allow for some really big tires up front. Now, clearing big front tires from steering lock to steering lock is really tough to do without some trimming, and even some leveling kits can be limiting as far as clearance for really large tire sizes. Now, this leveling kit is going to give you a pretty dramatic boost in height in the front, and it's really going to open the door up for a whole new level of stance. As far as ride height and tire size goes on your 2500, with this particular kit you should definitely be able to get a set of 35s under there, no problem. This kit from Cognito has those upgraded coil springs, which are really big, upgraded track bars, and those upgraded Fox shocks, which are actually the Fox PS IFPs. Now, these guys are some of the best performing shocks on the market, and they really fit this kit well. Taking a look at the construction aspect of this leveling kit, right off the bat, this is just about as beefy as you can get. Now, this isn't just a leveling kit that utilizes the stock suspension components. Everything here is built to take some abuse on and off-road, and you're gonna see a pretty dramatic difference in your off-road suspension performance. Everything here is corrosion protective coated, heavy-duty steel as far as the springs and track bars go, and then over to the aluminum shock bodies, those are never going to rust. Now, these shocks are designed to preemptively activate the shock fluid in the piston chamber and dampen the force of the impact before it even makes the suspension travel. Now, these are some really intelligent shocks, and they'll be extremely responsive on some intense terrain. Now, most importantly, everything you see here is designed to operate 3 inches taller than the factory ride height, so you're not going to be blowing out suspension components that are pushed or pulled to their max throw all the time either. Last, but certainly not least, this kit comes with a lifetime warranty for a cherry on top. This 3-inch leveling kit from Cognito falls around $1,700. Now, this is going to be a bit higher priced than a lot of other leveling kit options, but again, this is a very high performance off-road oriented setup. If you want top tier suspension, this is a really solid option to check out. This is going to be an install difficulty of 3 out of 3 wrenches with an install time of 6 hours. Now, this will be a little bit of a tough job for the average DIYer at home, but if you have some tools and some mechanical experience, you should be just fine to follow along with us and get this leveling kit installed in your driveway with no huge headaches. Let's head over to the install bay and check out that process step by step.
For this install, you will need an impact, a ratchet, swivel adapter, small extension, 8 21 and 27 millimeter sockets, 18 and 19 millimeter ratcheting wrenches, 21 millimeter wrench, a cutoff wheel, ratchet straps, pry bars, and a sawzall. Also not shown here is the jack and jack stands. What's up, guys? Today we're going to be installing a leveling kit on our Ram, so let's get started. So we tried getting the nut off of the top mount of our shock, but it is pretty well seized up. As we do live in the Northeast, we do have cold winters, a lot of salt on the road. That means rust, and if you live in an area similar to us, this is something you may well encounter. So what we're going to do is remove the fender liner so we can access this from the outside and take another approach at getting the top nut off. So to get our fender liner out, we're going to grab our 8 millimeter socket on our ratchet and go ahead and zip these bolts out. Then we're going to take that out. So now that we have all of our hardware out, we're going to go ahead and remove our fender liner. kind of work it out like so. Go ahead and set this aside. Make sure you keep track of all your screw clips. So there are many ways you could approach this at this point, but we're just gonna go ahead and take our Sawzall and cut the top nut off of our stud just to make it quick and easy. This is the simplest way to get it off if it's frozen up like this. Just not waste time, you know, fighting it with anything else. Just go ahead and cut it off, especially since we're replacing it. It's not gonna matter anyway. So now that we have our top shock mounting point off, we can go ahead and remove our bottom shock bolt. And to do that, we're gonna grab our 21mm socket on our impact and our 21mm wrench and go ahead and get that off. So now we'll go ahead and get our bolt out. We can go ahead and get our shock out of the mounting location. Go ahead and remove it fully from the vehicle. And once you have this done for this side, you can go ahead and repeat the same process for your other side. So now we're gonna go ahead and grab our new rear shock to get that installed on our truck. So we're gonna take our mounting nut off, take our top washer and bushing off. We're gonna leave the bottom bushing and washer on and go ahead and send this through the mounting point and get these back on. So we'll go ahead and get our shock up into position here. Find our mounting point. It's a little hard to see or, you know, feel for it. So then once we have the top of our mounting stud through, we'll go ahead and reinstall our bushing and our washer, followed by our mounting nut. Get this hand tight for now. Then we can go ahead and get our bottom mounting point in place. So now we're ready to go ahead and reinstall our factory bottom shock mounting bolt. And to do that, we're gonna go ahead and line up our shock. You may need to use a pry bar just to get the mounting point lined up. And it's just compressing the shock a little bit, just enough to get it into position. Maybe a little bit tricky. So once you get it close, you can go ahead and get your bolt into position, put a little bit of pressure on it like you want to get it through there. And as you're pulling your shock mount over, should be able to wiggle it right through. There we go. Then we can go ahead and reinstall our nut and get this tightened down, and then we'll come back and tighten down the top. So we'll go ahead and get our nut reinstalled. That on. And then we'll go ahead and tighten this back down with our 21mm socket on our impact and our 21mm wrench. So now we can go ahead and tighten down our top mounting nut with our 19mm ratcheting wrench. Now this is a lock nut, and once it gets down, it gets a little tighter. You can hold onto the shock and tighten it, or it does have an option for an Allen wrench insert in the stud to hold it that way. We'll see which works best. If we need to go that route, we will. So now we have our shock in place, we can go ahead and get our wheel well liner back in and slide this up. These are always a little bit tricky to get back into place. Go ahead and get this back section lined up first. Put it back into place here. line back up. And we'll go ahead and get our mounting hardware back in. So now we'll go ahead and get our mounting screws back into place using our 8mm socket on our ratchet. Now we've also got our mud guard back into place. We'll need our Phillips head screwdriver for this rear one. All right, so now we're ready to start getting our front end set up here. Now, we do have an interesting setup going on as far as lifting the truck and supporting it. We have jack stands under our front differential, and we have the 2 front lift arms on the frame rail of our truck because the standard lift points of this truck are on the control arms, and that will not allow us to lower the front differential as we need or raise the truck without bringing the differential up. So if you're doing this at home, just know you will have to support the truck and the differential in separate positions as to be able to maneuver how you need to. So now that we've got that all set up, we're going to go ahead and remove the fender liner for the front as well, and then we can go ahead and start removing our suspension components. So we'll grab our 8mm socket and our ratchet and go ahead and get these fender liner bolts out. So now yours from the factory should have a few more bolts and as well as a couple of push tabs along through here. Ours has been disassembled before and a few of these have gotten lost, but just note that there are a few more than what we took out from the factory. So now we can go ahead and get our fender liner out. Just got to get it around the shock tower here. It's a little bit tricky. Once you get it out in front of that, you should just be able to kind of roll it out. Just watch, you do have a brake line back here. You don't want to snag that. So now that we have our fender liner out, we can access our top shock mounting nut, and we're gonna go ahead and spray it with some penetrating lubricant to kind of hopefully give us a chance at getting it off with a wrench. But just as with the rear, there's gonna be a very real possibility that we may have to cut this one off as well, but we'll give it a shot. So now we're going to grab our 18mm ratcheting wrench as well as a 3/8 socket on our ratchet to hold the stud while we go ahead and attempt to break this off. And hopefully it comes loose with no struggle, but we'll see. And just as suspected, it did strip the stud immediately. So we are going to have to cut this mounting nut off, and for this one we're going to use our cutoff wheel. Now a right angle cutoff wheel would be the most optimal. We have this one which we can get in. Now one thing to To make double sure of, you're working around the engine and there are going to be sparks flying, so make sure there's no fuel leaks or anything important around where you're going to be cutting. Always make sure safety first. You don't want this to turn into a more expensive day than it already is. So we'll go ahead and get our cutting wheel in here. We've got shatterproof glasses on, and we're going to go ahead and cut this stud off. So after a lot of cutting, we ended up getting our top mounting nut off. So now that we have that off, we can pull our top bushing and washer out. Throw that aside. And we're gonna get our bottom shock mounting bolt out using our 21mm socket on our impact. Once we have our bolt out, we can go ahead and remove our shock. So now that we have both of our shocks out, what we're going to do is use the lift and raise the front of the truck up, releasing the tension on our springs so we can go ahead and get these out. So now we've got our truck raised up, enough to where our springs can come out freely, but we've been careful to watch our lines, make sure there's not excess tension on anything. And we'll go ahead and get our springs out of here. And once you have this spring out, you can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So now we're ready to install our new springs, and we're going to reuse our factory spring bushing here up at the top. We're going to line that back up right here at the indent where our factory one was before, and we're going to replace it right where this locator is up top. So we'll go ahead and get this in place. So now that we have our spring in, we can go ahead and install our new front shock. So we're going to leave our bottom washer and bushing on. We have our top washer and bushing in our hand. We'll go ahead and get this slid into place. Then we can install our top bushing and washer, followed by our mounting nut. And we're going to leave that loose for now. Then once you have it done for this side, you can go ahead and repeat these same steps for the other side. So now that we have everything in place and our top mounts are loosely installed, we're going to go ahead and lower the truck back down to get our bottom shock mounts lined up with their mounting points. So now we've lowered our truck back down enough just to get the bottom shock mount in line with the mounting plate. And we're going to reinstall our factory 21mm bolt as well as our factory flag nut on the back side. We'll get our bolt lined up here. May take a little bit of persuasion to get it through. Once you've got it, go ahead and give it a few taps if it's being stubborn. And work it in. So we've got our bolt worked through to where we can see threads now. So we're going to go ahead and get our flag nut in position. And this might be a little bit tough to spin by hand, so we are going to grab our 21mm socket on our impact and just lightly start threading this through. So now that we have our thread started, we can go ahead and run this in. Then we can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. So now we're ready to go ahead and do our track bar. Now we've still got our suspension at full droop. Obviously there's still movement here, nothing has really been tightened up. And we've got a ratchet strap to help aid in less movement of our front differential when we remove our track bar. And we have that hooked to where our sway bar end link comes to the driver's side here, and then up at the sway bar mount itself on the passenger side. And we have tension on it, but not enough to kind of squeeze it, just enough to hold it in place. And this is definitely recommended, as this axle could shift in more than a slight way if you remove it without one. So now we're getting ready to go ahead and take it off. So now we'll grab our 27mm socket and swivel adapter on our impact and go ahead and get our driver's side track bar bolt out. Now this does have a flag nut on the back, so there's no need to put a wrench on the back side. So now that we have this bolt out, we'll go ahead and remove the one on the passenger side and remove our track bar. So now we can go ahead and use that same 27mm socket on our impact to remove our passenger side track bar bolt. Now we can take our dead blow mallet and gently tap each side out of its mounting location. And it should just fall right out like so. So now we're going to get our new track bar installed, and we're going to start with the passenger side. So we're going to grab our provided bushings and put one on each side of our track bar, just like so. Now these are not really exactly press fit or anything, so you may have to hold them in place while we get our track bar into position. And then we'll start with the passenger side. We'll get the factory bolt back through to hold it in place. Then we'll get our other side installed, and then we'll tighten it down. So now that we have our passenger side heim joint of our track bar lined up, we'll go ahead and get our bolt through. We're not going to tighten it down just yet, but this will hold it in place. Okay, and we'll get it the rest of the way through and get our driver's side lined up. So now we'll get our driver's side into position, and we're going to line it up, and it is going to be at a bit of an angle. It's kind of hard to hold these bushings in place, to be honest. What we're going to do is get it up into our bracket here. Get your bushings so that they're not pinching. Slowly work this into position. Try to keep our bushings in order. As you can see, this is a little bit off, so we are going to have to pull our differential with a ratchet strap a little bit here once we get a little bit closer to being lined up. So once you've got this set for this side, you can go ahead and repeat the same process for the other side, and then we can install our flag nuts and get these tightened down. So now we can go ahead and reinstall our flag nut on the back side of our bracket here. Now it is pretty hard to see, but it goes in exactly where it came out. So we'll just slide this back into place here. Get it into position. And you'll feel it lock onto the bolt. And then we can go ahead and tighten this down. So now that we've got our track bar in, our next step is going to be to lower the truck and load the suspension so we can tighten down our upper shock mounting nuts. So now that we've got our suspension preloaded, we can go ahead and grab our 19mm ratcheting wrench and begin tightening down our upper shock mount. And you'll want to compress your bushings, but you don't want to flatten them out. So once you have this complete for this side, you can go ahead and repeat this step on the other side. So now once we have that done, we can go ahead and reinstall our fender liners. Go ahead and get these lined up. And we can go ahead and get our hardware reinstalled. So now we'll go ahead and grab our 8mm socket on our ratchet and reinstall our screws. So now once you've got this all done on this side, you can go ahead and repeat these same steps for the other side. Alrighty guys, that about wraps up our review and install of our Cognito Motorsports 3-inch performance leveling kit with Fox PS IFP shocks for your 14 to current 4-wheel drive Ram 2500. And one thing to note here is after installing this kit, it is definitely recommended to take it to a shop to get an alignment done after install. Thank you for watching, and as always, for everything Ram, keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.